In the realm of cinema, there exists a genre that has held audiences captive for decades. A genre that has the power to elicit a primal fear. A genre that we call horror. From the chilling tales of Gothic literature to the spine-tingling spectacles of modern cinema, horror has captivated our imaginations and stirred our deepest anxieties. But in recent years, a palpable shift has occurred within the horror genre. Once a force to be reckoned with, commanding massive box office returns and generating widespread cultural buzz, horror has seemingly retreated into the shadows, its once potent influence waning. What has brought about this decline? What factors have contributed to the waning popularity of a genre that once held audiences spellbound? Perhaps it's the oversaturation of the market, with an abundance of horror films vying for attention, leading to a sense of fatigue among viewers. Or maybe it's the evolution of special effects, which, while providing stunning visuals, have somehow diminished the psychological impact of horror. Whatever the reasons, there's no denying that horror has undergone a transformation, transitioning from a genre that dominated the cinematic landscape to a niche market catering to a dedicated fan base. But is this decline a sign of the genre's demise, or a mere evolution, a shedding of its skin to reveal a new and more refined form of horror? This video will explore the factors that have contributed to the gradual decline of horror movies, examining the changing tastes of audiences, the evolution of filmmaking techniques, and the impact of cultural shifts. We'll delve into the minds of filmmakers, critics, and fans, seeking to understand the reasons behind horror's diminishing prominence and to determine whether the genre is truly fading into obscurity or merely undergoing a period of metamorphosis. Join me on this journey into the heart of horror as we uncover the forces that have shaped its trajectory and attempt to decipher its future direction. Let's rewind to the roots of horror, and it all started with two classic books, Frankenstein by Mary Shelley and Dracula by Bram Stoker. Picture this: 1818 for Frankenstein and 1897 for Dracula. These novels didn't just spook people, they basically laid down the foundation for what we now call horror. Frankenstein is Dee's story about Victor Frankenstein, a scientist on a mission to beat death. He creates a creature that turns out to be more than just a scary monster. What makes it gripping is that it's not just about things going bump in the night, it's about big questions like messing with science, figuring out right from wrong, and feeling totally alone. Frankenstein brought a new vibe to horror. It wasn't just about getting scared, it made you think. Dracula took a different route. Bram Stoker gave us Count Dracula, this suave yet spooky vampire. But it's not just about fangs and capes. Stoker blended old legends with a modern twist, like a vampire drama from the 19th century. There's this mix of old-timey superstitions and worries about foreigners and the unknown. Plus, the way it's written, like a bunch of letters and articles, makes it feel real. Why do these books matter? Well, they didn't just tell ghost stories for the sake of it. Frankenstein and Dracula shook up the horror scene by making it about more than just jump scares. They tackled big ideas and real-life fears, and that's what makes them legendary. These two books didn't just start horror, they made it smarter, influencing writers and creators for generations. And they're the OGs of things that go bump in the night. In the early 20th century, cinema became the new playground for horror, marking what we now fondly call the golden age of cinema.
This war so much.
If it's worth all this, I mean, what you fighting for? Might as well question why we breathe.
Universal Pictures, a major player in this era, took center stage with a series of monster movies that left an indelible mark on the genre. Starting in the 1920s and reaching its peak in the 1930s and 1940s, Universal Pictures rolled out a lineup of iconic horror films that featured legendary creatures. One standout example is Dracula, 1931, directed by Todd Browning and starring Bela Lugosi.
Now flows through her veins.
This film not only brought Bram Stoker's vampire to the big screen, but also set the stage for the cinematic portrayal of vampires for decades to come. Lugosi's memorable performance and the film's atmospheric cinematography made it a classic. Following the success of Dracula, Universal Pictures continued its monster movie spree with James Whale's Frankenstein in 1931, featuring Boris Karloff as the infamous monster. The film's portrayal of Frankenstein's creation became an instant cultural touchstone, with Karloff's haunting and sympathetic performance making the monster a sympathetic figure. The Mummy, 1932, directed by Karl Freund and also starring Boris Karloff, further added to Universal's monster repertoire, drawing inspiration from ancient Egyptian mythology to create a chilling tale. The impact of Universal's monster movies was not only in the creation of memorable characters, but also in shaping the horror genre's visual language. The use of atmospheric lighting, elaborate sets, and groundbreaking makeup effects set the standard for horror films in the early days of cinema. As the mid-20th century approached, horror underwent another evolution, this time delving into psychological realms. Alfred Hitchcock, often regarded as the master of suspense, played a crucial role in this shift with his masterpiece Psycho, 1960. Hitchcock's film, inspired by Robert Bloch's novel, shocked audiences with its narrative twists and the infamous shower scene. Psycho not only elevated the psychological horror genre, but also challenged traditional storytelling and audience expectations. Hitchcock, known for his insightful quotes, once remarked, "There is no terror in the bang, only in the anticipation of it." This encapsulates his approach to horror, building tension and fear through psychological manipulation, a departure from the reliance on supernatural elements seen in earlier horror cinema. The golden age of cinema in horror, fueled by Universal Pictures' monster movies and enriched by Hitchcock's psychological thrillers, transformed the genre. The 20th century witnessed a cinematic renaissance where iconic characters, groundbreaking visuals, and psychological depth converged to captivate audiences and lay the groundwork for the diverse horror landscape we know today.
Put me down. Mother! Oh, God! Mother!
What are you running away from?
She looked like a wrong one to you?
The slasher era, a distinctive period in the late 20th century, ushered in a revolution within the horror film genre, epitomized by the meteoric rise of iconic franchises such as Halloween and Friday the 13th. John Carpenter's Halloween, 1978, is widely regarded as the archetype that set the stage for the slasher phenomenon, introducing audiences to the silent and relentless killer, Michael Myers. This film not only became a box office sensation, but also laid the groundwork for a slew of imitators eager to capitalize on its success. Following in its footsteps, Friday the 13th, 1980, directed by Sean S. Cunningham, introduced the world to the hockey mask-wearing Jason Voorhees, another indelible figure in the horror pantheon. As the slasher genre gained momentum, it brought with it a distinct aesthetic, graphic violence, suspenseful storytelling, and an emphasis on the vulnerability of the protagonists, who were typically teenagers. Wes Craven, a maestro of horror, also made a profound impact on the slasher era with his groundbreaking film A Nightmare on Elm Street, 1984. Craven's creation of the iconic character Freddy Krueger, a nightmare-invading razor-gloved killer, added a supernatural twist to the slasher formula. A Nightmare on Elm Street not only became a massive success, but introduced a new dimension to the genre, blurring the lines between reality and the dream world. However, the formulaic nature of many slasher films became a point of contention within critical circles. Critics argued that the genre often succumbed to predictable patterns, such as the final girl trope, wherein a lone female survivor outlasts the killer. While this formula became a hallmark of the genre, it also led to accusations of stagnation and a lack of innovation. Furthermore, as franchises like Friday the 13th expanded, concerns emerged about the increasing reliance on explicit violence for shock value rather than narrative substance. Wes Craven's influence extended beyond his own films, inspiring a wave of copycat movies attempting to replicate the success of A Nightmare on Elm Street. As the late 20th century progressed, the market became saturated with derivative works, leading to a dilution of the genre's impact and the exhaustion of its once potent formula. The ubiquity of slasher films and their formulaic nature raised questions about the longevity of the genre and its ability to sustain audience interest. One notable example of this shift towards gratuitous violence can be observed in Friday the 13th, The Final Chapter, 1984, the fourth installment in the franchise. This film, while a financial success, faced criticism for its heightened focus on graphic gore, pushing the boundaries of what was deemed acceptable by audiences and cultural commentators alike. The line between artistic expression and exploitative sensationalism became increasingly blurred, prompting discussions about the responsibility of filmmakers and the impact of their creations on societal attitudes towards violence. Despite these criticisms, the slasher era undeniably left an enduring legacy, shaping the trajectory of horror cinema for years to come. Filmmakers and storytellers drew inspiration from the tension-filled, visceral experiences of these films, influencing subsequent generations of horror creators. The slasher era, with its mix of suspense, gore, and iconic villains, remains a crucial chapter in the evolution of the horror genre, serving as a touchstone for both enthusiasts and critics alike. In contrast to the visceral thrills of the slasher era, The Shining stands out for its more nuanced take on horror. Directed by Stanley Kubrick, the film was applauded for its psychological depth, atmospheric tension, and masterful storytelling. Rather than relying on explicit gore and relentless violence, The Shining delves into the psychological unraveling of its characters, creating a sense of dread that lingers long after the credits roll. This nuanced approach showcased a different facet of horror, earning praise for its sophistication and adding a layer of complexity to the genre. The late 20th to early 21st century marked a compelling renaissance of horror, characterized by a departure from conventional tropes and the emergence of innovative films that reshaped the genre's landscape. M. Night Shyamalan's The Sixth Sense, 1999, stands out as a pivotal work, blending supernatural elements with psychological depth. Released at the cusp of the 21st century, it garnered critical acclaim for its unexpected twists and emotionally resonant storytelling. Concurrently, The Blair Witch Project, 1999, revolutionized the horror genre by employing found footage techniques, creating a groundbreaking sense of realism and immediacy.
Not about us getting lost. We're making a documentary about a witch. That first.
No, I know we're not lost.
That we're here now, hungry and cold and hunted.
This film, directed by Daniel Myrick and Eduardo Sanchez, exploited the burgeoning internet era, using online marketing to blur the lines between fiction and reality. The film's success demonstrated the power of grassroots marketing and the audience's appetite for fresh, unconventional narratives. These films, along with others like The Others in 2001 and The Ring 2002, demonstrated a shift towards psychological horror, emphasizing atmospheric tension and intricate narratives over gratuitous violence. This period not only revitalized the genre, but also paved the way for a new era of horror that embraced experimentation and challenged traditional conventions. As Wes Craven once said, horror films don't create fear, they release it. The renaissance of horror exemplified this release, tapping into psychological fears and pushing the boundaries of cinematic expression. However, the initial wave of innovation and experimentation in horror during the late 20th to early 21st century gradually gave way to what can be described as the franchise obsession in the modern era. While early periods witnessed the emergence of standalone, thought-provoking horror experiences, the industry's current landscape is dominated by an overwhelming focus on long-running series and reboots. This shift, while not devoid of successful entries, has raised concerns about the prioritization of financial success over groundbreaking storytelling, contributing to a sense of stagnation within the genre. Prominent horror franchises such as Saw, launched in 2004, quickly became synonymous with elaborate torture-centric narratives. The initial film's success led to a succession of sequels that often adhered to a formula of intricate traps and escalating violence, overshadowing the original psychological impact. Similarly, the Paranormal Activity series, starting in 2007, capitalized on the found footage trend but gradually veered into a predictable pattern of supernatural occurrences, diluting the suspense that made the first film a sensation. The Insidious franchise, initiated in 2010, also fell into the trap of diminishing returns as subsequent installments leaned heavily on familiar tropes, sacrificing the psychological subtlety that characterized the original. These examples underscore the challenge faced by long-running series in maintaining the delicate balance between delivering scares and offering fresh, innovative storytelling. In the realm of horror reboots, a similar pattern emerges, with filmmakers frequently revisiting classic titles with the hope of capitalizing on nostalgia and name recognition.
I've waited for him.
The 2018 reboot of Halloween aimed to breathe new life into the iconic slasher franchise. While this move garnered critics, many were left believing it successfully managed to pay homage to the 1978 original, albeit with a contemporary twist, though subsequent attempts to capitalize with Halloween Kills and Halloween Ends fell flat, with critics and fans alike.
You came here to kill me, so do it.
The 2019 remake of Child's Play also struggled to resonate with audiences, highlighting the risks of attempting to recreate the magic of the past without bringing a unique perspective to the narrative. This franchise-driven approach, though commercially successful, has led to a more formulaic and predictable landscape within the horror genre. As the industry grapples with the balance between financial viability and creative exploration, there remains a call for a return to the spirit of the Renaissance of horror, an era when filmmakers pushed boundaries, experimented with storytelling techniques, and captivated audiences with original, thought-provoking narratives. The tension between the franchise obsession and the desire for innovation continues to shape the contemporary horror landscape. A pervasive issue plaguing contemporary horror lies in the overuse of formulaic tropes and predictable plots, leading to a dilution of the genre's ability to evoke genuine fear. The reliance on jump scares, haunted houses, and supernatural occurrences has become so commonplace that it risks rendering these once potent elements into clichés. As audiences become accustomed to these well-worn devices, the element of surprise, crucial for instilling genuine fear, diminishes. This trend is exemplified by the prevalence of horror films that recycle concepts without introducing fresh perspectives, ultimately hindering the genre's capacity to explore new, terrifying terrain. For instance, the abundance of jump scares has become a contentious issue within contemporary horror. while effectively executed jump scares can heighten tension, and over-dependence on them can lead to a predictable and formulaic viewing experience. James Wan's The Conjuring series, which began in 2013, initially received praise for its effective use of jump scares. However, as the franchise expanded with sequels and spin-offs, the reliance on similar scare tactics became more apparent, resulting in diminishing returns and a sense of predictability. Haunted houses. A staple of horror storytelling, have similarly fallen victim to formulaic repetition. The Insidious franchise, starting in 2010, initially brought a fresh perspective to the haunted house subgenre with its exploration of the astral plane. Still, subsequent entries veered towards familiar territory, utilizing haunted house settings without significantly innovating on the established tropes. The prevalence of supernatural occurrences in contemporary horror also contributes to the sense of formulaic predictability. While films like The Others and The Sixth Sense adeptly employed supernatural elements within intricate narratives, many modern horror offerings simply recycle paranormal phenomena without bringing new depth to the storytelling.
Why you gotta do that shit, man? Why he's so scared?
This over-reliance on the supernatural without a fresh perspective diminishes the fear of the unknown, a core element that fueled early horror masterpieces. Renowned horror author Stephen King highlighted the importance of originality when he said, "I recognize terror as the finest emotion, and so I will try to terrorize the reader. But if I find that I cannot terrify, I will try to horrify, and if I find that I cannot horrify, I'll go for the gross out." This sentiment underscores the need for horror to continuously evolve and innovate, pushing boundaries to elicit genuine emotional responses. The contemporary horror landscape grapples with a critical challenge: the overuse of formulaic tropes and predictable plots. By examining examples like the repetition of jump scares, haunted houses, and supernatural occurrences, it becomes evident that the genre's reliance on recycled concepts hampers its ability to instill authentic fear. To rejuvenate the horror genre, filmmakers must strive for originality, embracing the fear of the unknown and exploring new narrative frontiers that can captivate and terrify audiences once again. Amidst the challenges confronting contemporary horror, there are noteworthy pockets of innovation driven by filmmakers determined to reshape the genre. Jordan Peele, renowned for groundbreaking works like Get Out, 2017, and Us, 2019, has emerged as a transformative force. Peele's films transcend conventional horror boundaries by weaving profound social commentary and exploring intricate psychological themes. Particularly Get Out drew attention for its sharp critique of racial dynamics.
Can I see your license, please?
He wasn't driving.
I didn't ask who was driving, I asked to see his ID.
Injecting a fresh and thought-provoking perspective into the horror landscape. Likewise, Ari Aster, through Hereditary, 2018, and Midsommar, 2019, has carved a niche by infusing horror with intense psychological depth. Hereditary was lauded for its exploration of grief and family dynamics within a supernatural framework. Aster's works showcase a commitment to original storytelling and a willingness to challenge traditional horror norms. However, horror, being one of the most challenging genres, grapples with the subjectivity of fear. What terrifies one viewer might not faze another, making it a delicate balance for filmmakers to strike. The trajectory of horror is poised at a crucial juncture. With the industry looking ahead, the future of horror remains uncertain. The genre will need to rely on that delicate balance in the pursuit of reclaiming its former glory. Embracing originality, addressing societal fears and pushing boundaries, whilst not succumbing to the allure of formulaic predictability, risking a loss of its ability to truly terrify audiences. As Stephen King once noted, "We make up horrors to help us cope with the real ones." Therefore, the genre's potential to resonate with audiences relies on its capacity to evolve, reflect societal anxieties, and provide a platform for innovative storytelling. In conclusion, the revitalization of contemporary horror is vividly apparent through the groundbreaking works of directors like Jordan Peele, Ari Aster, and the dedicated efforts of studios such as A24. More recently, Eli Roth has made a notable return to the horror scene with his latest film, Thanksgiving. Released to favorable reviews and earning praise from critics, the film has not only resonated well with audiences, but has also performed admirably at the box office. Roth's continued contributions underscore the ongoing commitment to providing new horrors that inject fresh perspectives, social relevance, and psychological complexity into the genre. Facing a decisive choice, the success of films like Thanksgiving signals a positive momentum, suggesting that the genre is not adapting but slowly creeping from the shadows to slash its way back into the forefront of cinematic fear.
Doors unlocked.
As the darkness of uncertainty looms, the question becomes, will horror continue its resurgence, carving a path with innovative narratives, challenging societal norms, and exploring the depths of human psychology? Or will it retreat into the safety of formulaic predictability, risking a fade into the obscurity from which it emerged? As we stand on the threshold of a new era in horror, the resounding echoes of innovation and audience resonance suggest that the genre, now more than ever, has the potential to re-solidify its place as a powerful and enduring force in the world of cinema.